What's up, everybody? Back here for another video. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting regional. That is the Hattiesburg regional between, of course, Southern Miss, but there's also a couple interesting teams as well. You got Virginia, you got Jacksonville State, and you have Little Rock. I'm so excited to talk about it. There's some really cool Cinderella stories in here, some really good mid-majors, of course, and you have Virginia, a team that's been pretty consistent throughout the year. Super excited to talk a little bit more about this regional. Now I'm going to get things going here with Southern Miss, of course, the regional host. They finished the year at 44 and 15, 22 and 8 in a really tough, really underrated Sun Belt conference. They just won the tournament championship. They've been really hot as of recently, but the thing about them is they're very, very streaky. Now I've mentioned this a bunch of times in past regional predictions that if you're the top team and you're streaky, I don't know if that's something you'd really like. If you were Little Rock or Jacksonville State at the bottom of this conference, being streaky would help a lot more than a team like Southern Miss. However, it could show that, potentially if they want to make a run in the future, it's certainly possible. Now, you look at some of their series wins, they took down Troy, who's in the tournament, Georgia Southern, who had a good year, Texas State, who's in the tournament, UCSB, who has that win over UCLA, is a two seed in the tournament. The only bad series loss that they have is to Arkansas State, which just showcased that the Southern Miss team has been pretty consistent and pretty good throughout the year. Now, Southern Miss has one of the most stacked rosters in the entire nation. They have Davis Gillespie, Kyle Morrison, Matthew Russo, and Joey Urban, four unbelievable hitters. They also have a pretty interesting pitching core, too, which just shows that they're well rounded, not just good on one side of the ball. Next up is Virginia. Now, it's really funny. I feel like Virginia really encapsulates what it means to be a two seed. Obviously, they're a power conference program. They went 36 and 21 in the conference, 14 and 16. Sorry, 14 and 16 in the conference, 36 and 21 overall. The interesting thing about Virginia, they've been really cold as of recently. They have some on and off offense. It really just depends on the given day how good they're going to end up being. And it shows with some of these series wins. They took down North Carolina, who's the fifth overall team. I would have personally had them at number three if I was to make my rankings. North Carolina, of course, is an unbelievable team. They also took down Virginia Tech, who are their rivals, and also a two seed in the tournament. But they also lost to Cal. They lost to Pitt and they lost to Louisville. Three teams that aren't in the tournament. Three teams that, they're not bad baseball teams, but none of them, they all just barely missed out of the tournament. It just shows like Virginia, they can kind of lose to anybody, can kind of beat anybody, and they're, I think, a perfect encapsulation of what it means to be a two seed in this tournament. When it comes to their hitters, they have AJ Garcia, who's their main guy, their marketable player. They also have Joe Toroli and Sam Harris, as well as a really good ace on the mound, which is Henry Zatkowski. Yeah, this roster is really good. I don't think they compare to Southern Miss, but they're certainly the second best in the conference, and it just shows that they do have potential to win this regional. Now, Jacksonville State, the Gamecocks, they've been unbelievable this year. It's crazy that they're a three seed. They're 46 and 13 overall in a tough Conference USA, which is kind of becoming a little bit underrated, similar to the Sun Belt. The interesting thing about Jacksonville State is they have some good series wins. They took down Western Kentucky, which is a solid one. The main one, though, they beat Auburn in a one-off game, which is really important to know. Obviously, Auburn is, I believe, the fourth best team in this field. They have a couple bad series losses, which is to Liberty and Dallas Baptist, but I don't think it's too big of a deal considering how good they've been in the conference. I don't think, they're losing sleep over something like that. They beat a lot of good teams throughout the year and are out to this tournament, and they're really good on the defensive side of the ball, which also helps them out. They also have Steven Cano as their ace pitcher. I think if Cano is hot, they definitely have a chance to win this regional, considering how good they are on the defensive side of the ball. I definitely think Jacksonville State has potential if Cano is able to step up. Now, the final team we have is Little Rock. Now, Little Rock made history last year when they did really well in the college baseball tournament, took down LSU, I believe. They come back for a second year, 36 and 26, 16 and 11. The interesting thing is last year when they made the tournament, they were like, I think 7 games under 500. Now this year they're 10 games over. They've had a much better year. And definitely, there's a lot of intrigue in this regional, which I think is a common around this entire regional. Just four teams that are, I think, pretty high level when it comes to their spot. Good one seed, good two seed, good three seed, good four seed. The thing about Little Rock, they're pretty streaky, but occasionally not as much as some of these other teams. They're also a defensive type of team. If you're the four seed, I think it's much better to be offensive than defensive, just because you need that pop to get over the edge. Being solid defensively, I don't think is going to help as much, especially when you're facing up against AJ Garcia and all those Southern Miss really good pitchers or sorry hitters. Little Rock does have Angel Cano, who's a pretty good power hitter who could spark the offense up a little bit. But Little Rock, unfortunately, they haven't done enough. They have a couple bad series losses to Lindenwood, SIU Edwardsville, and Missouri State, which show that Little Rock, when they're playing some tough competition, they don't always get it done. So who am I going to pick to actually win this really tough regional? It's going to be a bit of a shock. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. 46 wins speaks for itself. They've beaten tough teams. They've proven themselves. They've taken down Auburn. They're not going to be playing a team nearly as good as Auburn in this regional. And I really do think they're going to step up under Stephen Cash, who obviously has been such a great pitcher for them this year. I think the defense is going to stay solid, and I think Southern Miss and Virginia are going to struggle a little bit against them. I think getting a first win on against Virginia. Now, this may be a shock on who I think is going to win the regional, but I'm actually going to give it to the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. 46 wins speaks for themselves. Obviously, they've had such a good year. They've proven themselves against top competition. Beating Auburn helps them so much, even though it was just one game. Beating Western Kentucky, good series win. They beat some tough teams throughout the year, which I think helps them so much. And relying on Stephen Cash and that defensive unit is going to take them a long way. In second place, I'm going to go with Southern Miss. I think the pop that they possess is going to boost them over Virginia and Little Rock, but I do think Jacksonville State comes away with the regional victory. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the regional predictions coming out before it all starts on Friday.